Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle with the Sleep Coach School, and welcome to another Talking Insomnia episode. Today, I am joined by Kamilla, and Kamilla is one of our students who recently went through our group sleep immunity program. So I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. So first off, Kamilla, I just want to thank you for joining me today.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for inviting and for all your help this far. And I can't believe this is happening. This is so surreal. I'm like, oh, my heart is like pounding.
We're here. It's happening right now. No, it's
Yeah,
exciting.
it's unbelievable, yeah. But I'm really happy to be here and share my story. Thank you again.
Story is going to help so many people. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I've been so lucky to be able to work with you throughout your process and your journey with all of this. So with that, I always love to get started by asking people if you could share a little bit about your insomnia story, sort of how it started for you and what it looked like, and maybe some of the hardest times with your insomnia.
Yeah, well, I think it started pretty common, hearing all the other stories. Um, it was a stressful event that I think sort of jump started the whole process. Of course, I think there were also things that there's a lot of I think variables that also were connected. For instance, the beginning of 2020, we lost a loved one, this really dear person to me, and then the pandemic started, and I'm a piano performer, so this means no concerts, no opportunities to perform. So it's really hard, and music for me was one of the things that I could express myself and sort of let the emotions go. So that happened 2020, and then I booked I think it was summer, so this last summer. I booked a flight to Russia, and I haven't been there. So I'm originally from Russia, and I haven't been there for 5 years. So it was really stressful, first of all, because of the, pandemic during the time. We had to gather all the documents. It was stressful to plan. And then I get there. I'm jet lagged. I'm super tired. I haven't slept, in a day, like, 24 hours. And then the first thing that happens to me is that I get robbed by a taxi driver, and it wasn't violent or anything, but it was just the first thing that happened, and I just remember being so upset and so like lost, and I'm in this, I haven't been here for 5 years. It's so emotional. It's like I see my brother for the first time. I see familiar places, and I'm like, it's just mixed, happiness and then this frustration is really intense and emotional, and I had this again anxiety from all the flight, and all the stress from, and I remember, I was able to calm down. I was fine. I was like, okay, this is just money. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm safe. I'm alive. I'm here. So I fall asleep, and I remember I was falling asleep. Everything was fine, and all of a sudden I have this adrenaline rush, just waking me up.
Mhm.
And it's, I think, one of the first times it happened. It would happen before during super stressful situations, and this time it happened. And I remember like, okay, this is strange. I'm supposed to be really tired and sleepy. I haven't slept. I'm so tired and exhausted. Like, I have to sleep. And I remember just telling myself like, this is an important trip. I want to see my friends. I want to be happy. Just forcing myself out of this. Um, and it didn't happen. Of course, I couldn't sleep. Yeah. So it's probably like the second day I couldn't sleep. Um, the anxiety levels were really high, and yeah, basically I was able to maybe sleep a couple of hours here and there during the trip, but most of the time was just like wide awake. Um, yeah, I went to the doctor. He like prescribed me some antidepressants and some sleeping things, which of course they didn't help. Just I think made it worse. Um, we would call, like, my brother. I would stay with my brother and his girlfriend, and we would call, ER, and just in the middle of the night, and like freaking out. I can't sleep. I haven't slept for 4 days. So, oh my God, it's
Laugh,
funny.
but also in the moment, it's very scary, right? Like
Yeah.
it's only funny in hindsight to go, oh, I can't believe, we were that scared. But what were some of the hyperarousal symptoms that you were having at that time that were quite literally making you and your brother call the hospital?
Yeah, well, one of the things was I could feel my heart
Mm-hmm.
just pounding,
Yeah.
and then it wouldn't make, it's like it was so hard to fall asleep, and this constant anxiety that just wouldn't go away. Um, Eventually, I was able to come down. I was like, okay, I'm jet lagged. Like my sleep schedule is messed up. So basically, it's in reverse. When it's night, it's a day for me, and it's when it's a day. So I was able to come down. I was sort of convinced myself, okay, I had this stressful event. You know, it's normal that I'm feeling this way. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home, come back, and I'll feel better. I sort of convinced myself.
Right.
And then I do come home and with my husband, and just feel super safe with him. And yeah, I feel good. I was able to sleep really well for a couple of weeks, and it all went back to normal. But then eventually another stressful event came up, and I had to make some really difficult decisions, and it all came back. And then from there, I really couldn't understand why it was happening, because I was like, okay, this is stressful, but it's not like I'm jet lagged or anything. Like, why
Okay.
can't I sleep? I'm able to, usually I'm like, okay, like this, and I fall asleep. And this time, just gradually, I'm just sleeping less and less and less,
Mm.
until the point where I didn't sleep for 2 days. And then uh, I was just freaking out. My husband, um, he was freaking out. Everyone's freaking. I call my mom. My mom is freaking out. Nobody knows what to do really in this situation. And I think that was one of the things that really, really, like, were just adding to my anxiety, is because people didn't understand. They,
Yeah, of course, if
that,
you're freaking out already and you're getting stressed and worried, but then also everyone around you is having the same response, it's just validating your own worry and panic, right? And that's really
yeah,
difficult. And of course, it makes sense because insomnia is so misunderstood, and it's so easy for, I think, our loved ones to get really worried and react in that way, which unfortunately has the inadvertent effect of perpetuating it. So it sounds like that's what happened at that point with you.
yeah, because again, there was no particular reason why it was happening. And again, people would either say, like my friends, for instance, they would say, just calm down, just rest, which
Yeah.
is a helpful advice. But if you don't know the knowledge, like all the knowledge that I learned in this program, like, okay, don't think about it, right? It's a helpful advice, which
Sure.
might help, but some people, for me, it was so important to know the reason, and to know, like, okay, why is this happening? Because that was keeping me at night. I was like, is it something wrong on a physical level? Is there something wrong with my mind? Am I going nuts? Um, yeah, I was like, is there some other reason? Like, you keep thinking, like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And it just keeps spiraling down, because there is no answer really. And yeah, so it got to the point where I couldn't sleep for 3 days. Um, yeah, I was just going insane. Um, so my husband suggested that we move to California, where my mom is, and his family is, and it's a bit of a better situation there, because we would live in a house where I could, if I can't sleep, I can just do something else, or have a little bit more space. And so we move, and I decided to skip my school semester in Boston.
Can I ask
And
you quickly, what was the time period from which
mhm.
started until you decided, okay, let's move, let's pause school? Like, what was the amount of time that had lapsed?
So the trip was middle of July. So that's when I first had this episode. And then I think by the end of August,
Okay.
we moved because again, it just became a sort of spiraled out of control situation. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just and like our inability to handle things. Like again, my husband he worried about me so much that he was going insane with me. You know, it's like none of us could stay calm. You know, so we had to have a person, at least one person, to be calm with us.
I totally understand that. And it's also a great example of how much we go into problem solving mode when something like this happens, right? So it was, okay, how can we solve this? Let's make some really big decisions to solve this problem. And so it's very understandable, because that's kind of, it's just human to start thinking that way. And I want to keep going, but one thing that I was thinking of when you were telling your story is how interesting it is that when you were traveling and this started, because you had context, your brain had context of, I'm traveling, I am jet lagged.
Yeah.
Of course, this is happening right now. I've just been robbed. There was a big stress event. And so it all kind of made sense a little bit, as much as it was unpleasant. But when you came home and it was happening at home, and you could no longer say, well, I'm experiencing a lot of jet lag, that's what's behind this, because there isn't the context and story, that our brain tends to panic a lot more when it doesn't have context. So I just thought I would point that out, because as you were telling your story, I was thinking, oh, it's interesting, because at first there was all this context around what was happening, and that was probably comforting for your mind to know, you know what, it makes sense. And then it's when it doesn't make sense to us, that's when the real kind of problem starts, or we start to view it that way. So at that point, so you moved to California around August with your husband. And then what happened once you moved? Did you see an improvement, or sort of like, how did that go?
Mm-hmm. So at first, there was definitely no improvement. It got worse for a little bit because we were contacting our friend who's a psychiatrist, and he would keep prescribing me drugs, like first, sleeping drugs, and then antipsychotic drugs that didn't help. I think made it worse and made me more confused to the point where I felt like I didn't feel myself. Those drugs, some of them have that effect. So it got worse, and we went to ER again.
Very, very common.
Yes, and I was like having panic attacks, like really, really feeling lost and just not in control and not knowing what to do. That was really hard for me to realize that all of a sudden I don't have a solution. All of a sudden, solutions that I find don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I do, from here? So eventually, I got prescribed anti-anxiety pills, which were helpful actually during that very acute sort of episode of insomnia, because my insomnia was anxiety based for sure. And again, just like anxiety was like, okay, not knowing what's happening, not knowing what to do. It's just like being like totally lost. So I started to take the anti-anxiety medication, very small dose, but it was helpful during that very bad moment. And then slowly, I think that was also the time when I found Daniel's channel, and also started therapy as well. And I remember, I had a sleepless night and just like feeling like, total desperation. And then I just like, okay, I'm just gonna try to find something on YouTube to watch. And I, just randomly find one of the interviews.
Oh, really?
I think it was, I wrote it down, with Brenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was really great. She's so positive and so funny, and I really just loved. So first of all, the stories were so similar, and I just loved her energy, and I was like, oh my God, like this, like I'm up to something. Like there's something there that is very important, and I felt it right away. Like I felt this shift, sort of, okay, I think I found something that is true, that might help. And from there, I started to use the app first, but then I sort of felt like I kind of want to meet people sort of in person, not in person, but through Zoom. So yeah, and then I started the sleep immunity program. That was such a huge help right away. Just knowing that it's normal. It's normal to go through this stuff, and that it happens to many people, not just me. And I'm not dysfunctional. Like
You're not broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Just that realization that okay, I'm not alone. There's people going through this right now. There's people who came out of this, and they feel they're back to normal again. That was huge help. Like that like immediately helped me with sleep, and then eventually sleep became sort of like a secondary issue, and then the usually what happens, like I know that some people also experience it, like heightened anxiety and emotionality, and a lot of emotions, unpleasant emotions coming out after you sleep better.
Can, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It sounds like you stumbled on the channel just a little bit like I did. Like you weren't maybe necessarily searching, it just kind of came up and you just decided to watch it. And similarly to my experience, I also experienced this feeling of this immediate resonating with the teachings. I just knew what I was watching felt true. And after so much of trying all these different things that, weren't really helping at all, it just resonated so much right away. And it sounds like you had the same experience as well. And I know I feel really grateful for stumbling on a YouTube channel. I think it was also for me at, middle of the night. And so I love hearing about that. And it always makes me hope like that we can reach more and more people that way, because it's still, really not part of the mainstream teachings around this. So we'll have to make it that way. Kamilla, you're part of making it mainstream right now during all of this. And I'm curious, as you were starting to, begin your journey in the sleep immunity program, was there anything about the teachings that really started to resonate with you right away? I know that we talk a lot about mindfulness, and we talk about fear and anxiety and accepting. Was there anything that really kind of spoke to you right away? Or was there, maybe the flip side, you thought, I don't know, this is going to be really hard. I'm not sure if this is possible. What was your experience like, I guess, starting the program?
Well, again, immediately I felt 40% better. Just because, again, this understanding of, okay, this happens. I'm probably not going insane. That's good. Yeah. So, it was a lot of things were so helpful. Like the sleepless window was really, really helpful. And that concept of finding joy, if you can't sleep, just do something that you enjoy. I was really health conscious, and I'm still health conscious, but in a different way. So it's the same thing, no screens before the bedtime. Like I was quite rigid in that sense. And of course, when it all started, a lot of people, doctors, PhDs would tell me, okay, no screens, no spicy food, no nothing, no junk food, no tasty food.
No fun at all, Kamilla.
No fun
at all.
Yes. just like, super dark, just, do some meditation, do this, use this app for meditation, oh my God, it's like so many rules. And as soon as I found the Daniel's channel, I, slowly started dropping this unnecessary rituals, like, okay, I'm like doing yoga to fall asleep. Like that's doing yoga is great, but the intent
Yes.
is what matters. So I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything. Like I just want to do whatever I want in that moment,
Mhm.
and really just trying to find just things that I enjoy. If I want to work all night, if that's something I want, I'll work or compose or do music, even though it's like stimulating, right? It's not you're not supposed to do it at night. So that was, oh my God, that was really, really, really helpful. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like all of a sudden you were in that moment of desperation and then like, oh, you're finding joy in things. It's like it's a process. You go from desperation to like, okay, there's a little hope, and then okay, I felt joy for 5 minutes yesterday. That's good.
That's
you know
something. Yep.
that's something. I was calm for half of the day. That's a big achievement. It was for me. I was like, oh, today I didn't think about insomnia at all, and I was calm. you know Even that, I was just, again, and whoever is watching, those little stepping stones, just celebrate them. If you got a little better, that's huge. That's huge. So again, it was a process, and slowly, 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 all of a sudden, like you can feel joy just from, you know, watching something, a movie. I remember just watching something that I would enjoy before, and just realizing I'm not enjoying it. I can't reconnect with that anymore. But there is a way back. There is a way back to it. Finding that way again, just keep just consistency, trying to find that joy. And then once the joy comes, the fear,
Mm.
uh, it doesn't dissipate. The fear might be there, but it's not as that doesn't have as much control over you, because you always have the joy, of doing something that you like. So that was huge. That was huge. Um, Another thing that really helped me is, I think that's, Michelle, came from you. It's the idea of being with your emotions, accepting your emotions, not running away, right? And being, comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was, again, it's very tricky. And so it sounds simple, like, oh, just accept your emotions.
Just feel, Camilla. Just feel. It's
Yeah,
funny.
but it's tricky. It's not always easy.
It's very
As
hard because a lot of the times the emotions that we're dealing with when it comes to insomnia are hard and heavy and scary, and we may not have a lot of experience with that, and we might want to just push them away. But it's so very true. And I wanted to circle back to a couple things that you mentioned. And one is, I love how you brought up joy and finding joy again, which is, you had mentioned finding your way back to joy. And was that a process of really kind of finding your way back to yourself as well during that time?
Definitely, definitely. But that was part of it, because at some point, insomnia, it consumes you. You
Yeah.
become literally a different person
Mhm.
that nobody recognizes. Like my mom would be like, I don't recognize you. But that also could hurt.
During that time? Like, did you recognize yourself as well during the time, or did you feel like you had lost yourself during the struggle? I know I did,
Yeah,
certainly. Yeah.
I think I did too. And it would, of course, not all the time, but that was actually one of the hardest parts. And it is very hard. And for me, let's say music was a big part of my identity. And all of a sudden, I feel like, I don't want to play music anymore. It's like I don't want to do anything that would bring me joy. before. And then it's like that scares you even more. Like, why? Why is this happening? Like, it's like, what can I do? But I think it's totally normal because, now thinking back, our brain just thinks that we are in danger, and survival becomes this number top priority, and nothing matters to the brain at this moment. It's the same thing when I have a performance coming up and I'm anxious about it. It's something, nothing matters. Okay, the performance, that's the only thing that matters. It's the same thing. Survival becomes number top priority, and then when it's connected to sleep, then sleep becomes that priority. And now it makes sense to me, but back then I couldn't understand. But slowly, with the right knowledge and consistency, slowly, like as their brains are coming down from that survival mode, okay, all of a sudden, just you find those like little islands first, like little island of joy and calm, and some laughs and jokes, and just really, like, that would keep me going. I was like, yesterday I have fun. We went to this party, although I didn't sleep, like I had fun. Like that's what matters, really. Still doing things. Like, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe you're going to have terrible time, but maybe you're going to have this amazing time. You're going to meet some amazing people, and just keep hanging on those little episodes of happiness.
I love that. I love that so much. It's so true, and it's one of the things that we work with people on, is to help them re-engage with their old lives, their lives before insomnia, and help them re-engage with meaning and with joy, and to start reawakening a little bit of that, because it can become so dormant when we are in survival, and we can convince ourselves that it's gone, that we don't feel like ourselves and we're never coming back. And of course that's not true. And I love how you described that whole survival mechanism, and why we feel that way. And I know for you, music is such a huge part of your life. Was that one of your first, I want to say, islands, so to speak, that you reached out for? Was it music? Like returning to music?
Yes, I think that was first thing that all of a sudden I realized, okay, I wanna play something right now. I wanna improvise. I wanna, learn this piece, and just whatever you want at this moment, what it is, something insane you haven't done before, just do it, because like it's insane, but that's how you teach your brain it's okay. You're not in trouble anymore. You can do those fun things. You're not in trouble. If you don't do them, the brain doesn't really understand that, okay, we're safe. Of course, I think just also mentally understanding that, I remember I was reminding myself all the time, I'm like, right now I'm safe. Like nothing's going on, right now I'm good. If I don't sleep, I'll survive probably.
I like probably. A very,
Yeah,
very good chance, yes.
yeah, there's most probably, yeah, you'll be fine. um yeah, so I remember I started, one of my friends actually suggested that I sort of record myself and post it on, Instagram and things like that. Just sort of getting some feedback was also really helpful. I was like, oh, these people actually enjoy my playing. So that might be also really helpful, just to share whatever you're doing, with people. Yeah, and I remember just reconnecting with a lot of friends, and calling my old friends and like, oh my God, I'm freaking out, But that was nice, reconnecting with friends and family, and my mom, spending time with her, you know I think a lot of people talk about this, like how they sort of reconnected with their families
Yeah.
because of that.
Well, you
That was,
start to re-engage with the world, I think, because
yeah.
so many of us, as we get deeper and deeper into insomnia, our world gets smaller and smaller and smaller because we're protecting ourselves from everything. So that means we're cutting things out. We've stopped doing a lot of things. We lose touch with ourselves and with loved ones, and we can feel really stuck in that. So I love how you're describing this because it's such an important part of recovering from insomnia is starting to re-engage with our world again and start to reach for joy, start to reach for meaning, start to reach out to friends and to family and kind of move away from that kind of protective bubble that we tend to put ourselves in. And I think as we do that, we lead ourselves back to ourselves. As a bit of a strange way of putting it, but we can help find ourselves again from feeling a little bit lost. And it sounds like that was part of your experience with going through this. And it's such an important part because, as you mentioned, it starts to teach your brain, oh, wait a minute, maybe I don't need to be in survival. She seems to be playing music again. She's reaching out to her friends. Maybe she's safe and maybe we can start to reconnect to all of this. And then of course that in turn has its own momentum with everything and kind of, helps us through that whole recovery process. And I really like how you also mentioned that at the beginning it happens in small pieces, right? You mentioned them as finding islands as opposed to expecting a whole day to go a certain way or to feel like your old self for a whole day. I think you even
Yeah.
mentioned I felt joy for 5 minutes, and that's a win. And I love what you mentioned, and then I would celebrate that. That's a big piece, and we often forget to actually notice these small things and to acknowledge ourselves and to actually celebrate these moments as wins. I feel as though we're not very good at that in general as humans of celebrating. Can you remember some of the things that you did to, I guess, celebrate those moments with yourself? And that could be anything. That could just be acknowledging yourself. But do you remember how you would celebrate?
Well, whenever I would feel good, and that was such a seldom occurrence,
Yeah.
I would just put on music and, some loud music that I really like. I would go on a walk. I would be like, vibing to the music, just really enjoying myself. And usually I do it like through music. I like dancing too. Just it might sound silly, but um, I had those weird, really highs and the sort of big highs and big lows, or like
Mhm.
intense. So I would get that intense high, and I'd be like, okay, well, whatever. If it's, I would probably, the next day or two, like I would have a low,
Yeah.
intense low, but like, I don't care. I'm gonna enjoy this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I just had fun. I was, when you feel good, everything feels good. Like you can do dishes and dance because you just feel good inside of you. Yeah, just I don't know. That's for me. It's like the best, right? You feel like you can, hike an Everest.
Hmm.
Just everything basically. Yeah. But definitely just putting some music and singing or dancing. I think that was a how to say this. That was an answer for me for sure.
I love that. I love that. And it's such an important part of this is to celebrate ourselves and acknowledge ourselves along the way because it can be a difficult process at times. It has ups and downs. And so that's so, so important. And I know one of the things that you were mentioning was part of your recovery journey was kind of learning how to feel emotions and going through that process of really tapping into all of that. Can you describe a little bit of what that was like for you, sort of what the challenge was and what the journey was with that?
Yeah. Well, by default, I grew up in a culture where emotion was a sign of, weakness,
Mhm.
and we were taught to be really serious. Not taught, but like, you just look outside to the people outside, and you learn from that as a child. So part of it is just the way I grew up. It's just by default you suppress any emotion, whether it's a good emotion or bad emotion. But and with this program and going through these experiences, it took some time, but all of a sudden, like, because I couldn't go to the default anymore, because the default would make me go the insomnia route. I would have all this. So like for me, it was either this like terrible insomnia, right, and desperation, or I have to find a new path. So I think that only could have happened if I were to experience that really difficult situation. So I'm actually grateful that it happened, because it taught me a different way. So it was really amazing just going through. I was also working with therapists at the time, and we were sort of working our one, family, sort of just like generational stuff. That was really helpful, and just sort of releasing all that baggage. Yeah, and for the first time, I think in many years, you learn how to release it. Like I learned how to release it, and all of a sudden, it creates room for all these positive emotions, right? You don't hold on. You don't suppress anything. You don't hold on to anything, and all of a sudden, just feel so much lighter and free and open to experience, to present moment. You become open to the present moment, and whatever it gives to you, you can feel it. You can feel it. The real way. If it's something bad, you feel bad. If it's something good, all of a sudden, oh my God, I didn't know I could feel that way. It's an exploration of your own self, first of all, and it's not easy, but I think the outcomes outweigh the challenges, because eventually I remember feeling more alive. That was amazing. And then realizing that emotions are normal, whatever it is, a bad one, a good one, it's so normal. It's being human. You become more empathetic. You become like I became more understanding towards people before, because I was always like like a robot. I couldn't sometimes understand people, like why are they so happy, like why my husband is so angry, like because I would not how to say, I would constrict myself to the extreme, like I would only stay in this middle, right?
Yeah.
So like, okay, I gotta be calm, I gotta be normal. It's like, oh, this is normal, this is whatever is on the sides is not just in the Russian culture, but I think here as well, like you're not allowed to feel depressed or sad, right? It's like if you feel depressed, like there's something wrong with you all of a sudden.
Yes, we need to fix that immediately. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and this immediate fix, like, oh, let's go have a drink, let's go, have a smoke or something, like you'll feel better. But again, sometimes we just gotta live through it, even if it's a stretch of days or a couple of weeks. You'll live through that in a healthy way, and then the it's gonna heal itself or fix itself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love how you describe that we mostly will try to avoid or oppress these types of emotions because they're uncomfortable, and also because I think our culture supports that. Yes, avoid this. Go get the drink. Like get that out of your head. Let's switch out of that. And I like how you described that you were living in a tight band, right? The central, more neutral emotions were acceptable, but anything on the extremes, that's not even the wrong word, just on the edges, were not. And oftentimes, I think it's so common that we think, okay, I'm going to just be here thinking that somehow this is going to allow us just to avoid the what we consider negative emotions, when really it's also just creating such a small band so that we can't even really experience a lot of positive emotions like joy and
Yeah.
moments of happiness and being in the moment. That becomes more constrained as well. We're not just constraining what we like to think is hard emotions, we're constraining the whole human experience. And the only way to really know that is sort of to do the work that you have done, where you were allowing in more of these difficult emotions. You were walking towards them and being willing to stay and experience them. And as a result, feeling the broader range and feeling more joy in your life. So is that something you've been able to kind of carry with you beyond, of course, beyond the insomnia journey and recovery?
Hmm. Yes, definitely. Definitely. It's spilled out to every aspect of my life. It helped me with, again, with relationship, with relationships with my husband, with my family, just really understanding people. When you feel, right, we have to feel. We have to feel those emotions, negative emotions, in order to emphasize. So that helped a lot, and just generally, I think I'm more appreciative of friendships and just connections and life in general. You just feel like, oh, like life just can bring joy. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to earn it,
Mm,
right? You don't have to earn your joy or happiness or calm, because it's all there in the first place. You don't have to fight for it. Like, I think for a long time I was like in this battle for calm or happiness, where you have to, like, okay, I have to do this and this in order to be happy or calm. And sort of realizing, I think that also, like, just being conscious of your emotions gives you that perspective, that joy is like is always there,
mhm.
no matter what. It's just, again, finding that path to it is really important. Yeah, and then I don't know. I know we talked about it actually like a couple of weeks ago, that a lot of people are like, so since I skipped one semester and I came back, a lot of people have noticed, like, oh, you changed, like something changed about you. I cannot put a finger on it. And I was like, oh, I wonder why. And then I realized that I'm just just generally like a happier person, or I'm able to, although sometimes it's hard, it's not like an easy ride all the time, but with practice, it's like, yeah, your brain sort of learns to see more good, and sort of pick up on positive things instead of negative things, like which was how I was, before.
Nice.
Um, yeah, and definitely, it helped with my performing skills as well. And this is, because, again, this path, for me, was, I had a lot of challenges with emotions and anxiety in particular. So anxiety, I think that's something that goes through my whole life, that sort of theme. And I was really able to work on it, and it is just so much better. I'm like, all of a sudden, I realized, I wasn't really calm before.
Mhm.
I was constantly in this sort of like stress, like sort of, being maybe not on edge, but close to it. And all of a sudden, like, I find myself, even when I'm doing something that is challenging, like, okay, I can do this, and finding that inner strength and courage, just going through those experiences before, just really, really, it's for sure changed, my brain. Somehow it's like, all of a sudden your brain learns that a lot of things that we consider stressful are not actually, can't really harm us. And our perception, it's the way we perceive them is what really matters. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I had a similar experience as well, because, of course, the journey through insomnia is a journey through fear and anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a similar story where I have had struggled with, chronic anxiety for the majority of my life, if not my whole life. And, very unexpectedly going through an insomnia recovery process really spilled over, because you are really working with fear and anxiety, and it does change your mind and your brain and your perception of everything, just like you're describing. So I love hearing that part of people's stories, because I hear it a lot, how it really kind of spills over into other areas of life like that, and it makes so much sense. And I loved, when you were saying that you feel grateful for your insomnia experience. And that's something that I hear a lot too. And that can be hard for some people to imagine when we're in this. How did that feeling come to you? Was that something that you only started to feel really on the other side, or was it maybe even during your recovery process? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. I think like maybe halfway through,
Hmm.
when I didn't struggle with sleep as much, but I did struggle with the emotion part and anxiety. I really started understanding that, that was given me as a lesson to really work on my emotions and the way I'm dealing with them, because my whole life I was not doing it right.
None of us
Um,
do. None of us do. We're
yeah.
not taught.
Yeah, and although it was hard, it was hard. There's a lot of tears, a lot of journaling. But again, I think the result outweighs those, all these challenges. And again, for me, some of it was immediate. Some of it was immediate, like immediate, all of a sudden you feel, okay, you're released, free. Some of it was more of a process. For instance, my general anxiety, it was quite a long process actually for it to go down. But now again, it went down, and you still got to do the work. You got to be consistent, watching your thoughts, watching these patterns that come up. Sometimes, I do find myself sort of again slipping
Mhm.
towards some dark path that will lead me, somewhere to a bad place. But you develop this um, consciousness. You develop. You can catch yourself now. Uh, if you do the hard work, now I'm so much more aware. I'm so much more aware that okay, I'm not my thoughts.
Mm.
I'm I can change my thoughts. It's not going to happen overnight. Like if I went like the wrong path for a couple of days, okay, it might take me a couple of days to get back to where I was, but I know it's possible.
Mhm.
I know that I don't have to stay there.
Mhm.
It's um it's not like I'm in control, but how to say, because I control again in this like it's not like, oh, I can control, it's not that type of control, but I feel like
You can navigate, maybe.
yes, I can navigate those emotions much better, and sort of this gently. It's like
Mm.
again, it's not like I'm punishing myself. Oh, I shouldn't have these thoughts. No, it's more about, recognizing, okay, this might not be the best for you right now, and sort of gently rewire it, sort of gently moving myself out of it. And I think being kind is
Mhm.
is very important, because it's so easy to get into this battle between you and your thoughts and emotions. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, I cannot think about that right now, or I cannot, like, Daniel told me to have fun, or Daniel told me to
Right, right.
to enjoy myself. Yeah. Um, and yeah, I think for sure at some point I misunderstood all these things. Like you end up creating new battles every day, creating something else to worry about. Okay, now I'm worrying about not having fun or not having joy, or now I'm worried about these thoughts that I shouldn't have, and it just keeps on piling up like this. And that was actually a hard part too, realizing that the gentler you are with yourself, the better. The the softer the angles, it's the easier you're gonna flow into the right place. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. It's such a good point because, of course, within the teachings, we will talk a lot about how, it's not about what's happening with our sleep. It's really how we're mentally and emotionally responding. And on the surface, that can sound like, oh, okay, I need to not respond, or I need to be constantly calm. And sort of what ends up happening there is we kind of start white knuckling calmness, or the pressure to feel calm. And then if we're not calm, inevitably, we can be hard on ourselves. Like, oh no, I had a reaction, or I had this fearful emotion, or I had anxiety, or what have you. And it's really not about that white knuckling approach. It's more about, can we start being accepting and allowing of everything that's going to show up, the good and the bad. And as we sort of teach ourselves these skills of observing and noticing and allowing, over time, I think we just naturally become more calm, more accepting in the face of everything that's happening. But I think it is all about just being okay with whatever comes, and allowing yourself to actually feel it. And as opposed to, oh no, I'm not having fun, which I totally understand, right? At the beginning, sometimes this stuff can be a little bit confusing. And so I love that you brought that up, and you talked about the self-kindness piece, which is so hard for so many of us, but it makes such a big difference if we're able to just be kind with ourselves. And I know you talked about consistency and building consciousness, which I thought was really interesting. And when I work with people, I so often see there's this pivot point from them really understanding a lot of the teachings and the process very intellectually, from them really internalizing it. And you see these big shifts with people. There's like a pivot. And for everybody, it's different, right? It happens on its own time and it looks different. And I always love asking the question, sort of, what was that like for you? And what do you think kind of helped that pivot happen? And that's why when you said consistency and building consciousness, my ears sort of perked up and thought, is that really what helped you the most with internalizing a lot of the teachings from the program?
Yes, I think being consistent was a hard lesson that I had to learn myself, because again, we think, okay, I learned that, I read the book, I know this, and then you sort of, okay, forget about it, and you stop applying it, on a mental level. And it's, for me, it's important to, even right now, even when I'm, sort of going through the recovery and I don't have any sleep issues, I still have to remind myself, and I still sometimes go through the book and just go through some aspects of it. Thinking about it as playing an instrument or doing some kind of a sport, right? You can learn all the theory, right? But you're never going to get to the point of being, just doing it without an effort, without being consistent and doing it every day. Going to the piano and practicing every day, that's going to get you, playing effortlessly. But if you practice a little bit and then you forget about it for 1 month, it's like it's like you didn't even do it in the first place. So that was so helpful. And just understanding also, I'm always comparing everything to music because it's just, it's part of me. Trusting your body, your mind, your consciousness, your subconscious, everything, trusting it to do the work. because if you have done the work yourself, conscious work, you did the practice, you did your scales, you did your or whatever sports routine, you did your exercises. It's important to at some point let go and trust your mechanism, internal mechanism to do the work. I think that was hard for me to let go of it. I was like, okay, I still have to do something. I still have to fix it. I still have to watch my thoughts, and I still have to do it, but not as much. And then again, at some point, again, just trusting yourself that you're going to be okay. And now you have the knowledge, eternal knowledge, to guide you. Yeah, I think that was really huge. And of course, and knowing that you are stronger than you think. Yeah, and you have this strength inside of you, and usually people go through some really rough time, and knowing that you did it and you came out of it, you might not be in the perfect place right now, but you already went through things that not a lot of people went through, and you have the strength to keep going and get out of it. Yeah, I think just believing in yourself and that strength, in that wisdom, sort of eternal wisdom that our body has, our minds have this ability to heal, if we don't stand in the way,
Yes.
Yeah, just letting it happen. Just let your body do the work, and your mind. Yeah.
And of course, I want to ask sort of the question that I know so many people will be wondering: how is your sleep now? How is all of that going?
Yeah, it's going really good. I had a few speed bumps when I came to Boston. I think we talked about it in the beginning of January. It's like middle January. Um, that wasn't a big deal. That was fine. I think I handled it pretty well. Right now, I know I wouldn't say that my sleep is perfect. I sleep good most of the time. I might have the other day, because of the situation, unfortunately, in the world, like I'm half Russian, and have a lot of friends and family involved, and so I'm starting to recognize that it influences my sleep.
Of course.
But I'm handling it so much better. The other day I had the adrenaline rush again because of all this news, but I was like, had it a couple times, and I was like, that's okay. I just didn't react to it. I was like, that's totally normal. Like, so many people are going. I'm feeling for those people, and it's normal to feel for them, and to experience the stress, and then that's totally normal. A lot of people are not sleeping right now, probably.
Absolutely. Such a good point.
Um,
With everything that's going on
yeah.
in the world right now, it makes so much sense for us to be feeling so much stress, so much pain, and for sleep to be disrupted. Very, very normal.
Yeah, just go easy on yourself. I actually, what I like to do when I do start feeling anxiety about it again, I'm like, okay, if I don't sleep today, what's gonna happen? What's the worst thing that will happen? And just going through it. Just really think it, okay, I might be depressed and tired and grumpy tomorrow. I might not do as well, on whatever it's work or school, but just being easy on yourself, like allow yourself to be human, not perfect. Nobody can be perfect. Just that also a huge part for me was hard lesson to learn to just let myself make mistakes, you know,
Right.
and accepting my mistakes, like accepting, oh, that's, I cannot be perfect. I gotta make mistakes on the way.
And our sleep can't be perfect
Yeah,
either. Right? So even letting go of that. And
exactly. I used to be so stressed out about it, but now, I didn't sleep well. I feel fine during the day. If I don't think about it, like, oh, it's gonna ruin my day. Like, once you drop that, all of a sudden I understand, like, yes, of course sleep matters, it's obvious, but just like diet and exercise. But if you eat a burger once, if you didn't sleep well once or a couple days, you're gonna be fine.
Yes, exactly. It's true.
Yeah, it's definitely not overthinking. That also helps.
Oh, definitely. And with all of the knowledge you now have and all of the skills and the tools that you have, do you feel immune from ever going back into the depths of the struggle that you were in before? Do you have that feeling of maybe stability or trust in yourself?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I just knowing that I went through it, and I was fine. I'm fine. I'm great,
Yeah,
actually.
absolutely.
Yeah, just if something like this might happen again, I could, go travel and get robbed again. But I get now that I might experience the same thing that I had experienced, but my perception, the way I'm living through the situation would be so much different, so much more accepting, and
Mhm.
just letting myself experience that,
Yeah.
and yeah, not being afraid of knowing that I'll be okay. Um, Definitely,
Creates a whole different
the
outcome, of course.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Again, I might not sleep for a couple days if something like this happens, but my on emotional level, I'll, you know, even right now, something, I told you I had some speed bumps, but I was able to handle them so much better, so much better, and just showing myself that, every time something happens, it's like another lesson to learn. First of all, like, okay, maybe there's something I can learn, maybe there's something I still need to learn and to experience. So yeah, treating it as a opportunity.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So one more question before we wrap up. And
Mhm.
having been through the program, if there's someone watching right now they're brand new, they're just starting the program, maybe they don't feel a lot of hope or faith in themselves, or they're scared. What's one thing that you would say to them at this point?
Mhm. Well, there's a nice fairy tale, or it's a play about a blue bird. I grew up reading about it, and it's about two kids uh, learning that their friend is really sick, and they have to find this blue bird to heal him or her. Um, and they go on this journey to find that bird, and just go through all sorts of trouble and you know adventures. And they when they come back, they didn't find it, but then they see that their house bird, their home bird, was actually that bluebird all along, and they find it in a place where they don't expect it to find. And it was there, for them this whole time. But they had to go in order to see that, like, they had to go through all the trouble. And I think for me, it was really quite the same. And I think for a lot of people, you might be going or went through some really, really hard times, and like it's really hard, and I get it. But this is sometimes we had to go through it to realize that we have this strength and courage. And if you went through something like this, something like I went through, you have it. You have it. Just believe that you have. If you don't feel it, like, but you 100% have it. um, and knowing that whatever comes afterwards, you'll have the strength to live through that too. And slowly, with all, the help of knowledge, um, that gradually, it's going to get better and better. And really, really believing in that inner strength and wisdom that we have, inside of us. Um, yeah.
No, that's a wonderful answer. That's so helpful. And I know everyone's watching has gotten so much benefit from being able to learn about your story and your journey through this. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing everything that you have. I know I really appreciate it. I know the whole community will as well. So thank you so much, Kamilla.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, for inviting me. It's feels surreal because I remember also dreaming about it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be on this interview one day. Yeah, it feels amazing. Again, thank you so much for creating this opportunity and just helping just people around the world. It's really incredible. Thank you.
Oh, well, that's so kind of you to say, and just thank you so much for being here. So I'll
Thank you,
see you
Michelle.
back in I'll see you back in the program, and before you go, and thanks again. So that's it for today, everyone. I'll see you next time.